summoned to Capitol Hill to help the Senate Intelligence Committee understand how the Russians used different Twitter accounts to try and influence the course of the election and the nation's political discourse. But as you heard, Senator Warner and others were saying that Twitter's presentation really fell short and showed, as he put it, a lack of understanding from Twitter of how serious the issue is and the threat it poses to democratic institutions.
So did they answer any questions? Did they try and answer some questions, or do we have any idea?
I think they answered, but the senators felt like all they were doing was parroting what Facebook had told them. You know, Facebook did all this research, and they found a certain number of accounts that were linked back to the Russians, and Twitter basically detailed about 200 accounts that were linked to the Russians, and they turned out all to be based on what Facebook had presented. And private investigators had looked into this and found a gazillion Twitter accounts that were linked to Russia and that were used to spread propaganda or false news stories or other messages that could influence how the outcome. That could influence the outcome of the election.
Aaron Katersky, this isn't just about what happened last fall, but isn't this ongoing assault continuing now through this NFL protest controversy?
Yes. And look, they're only now getting at what happened, back during the election. Facebook is turning over all of these ads that may not have mentioned a specific presidential candidate or even the election, but kind of amplified divisive social and political messages like immigration, gun rights, LGBT issues, and that's what's continuing now with the NFL, just kind of stoking the fire and butting into American political discourse.
Is it real people in Russia, or are they robots, or is it, or do we know?
Well, it's in some cases it's both, but behind the bots are real people that the American investigators believe were working behind the scenes to set up these accounts to do exactly what they were doing, to kind of get in, try and weaken the American democratic way of life. And the senators said it is important to understand how they did it and how they were able to target certain regions of the country with specific ads or messages targeted toward particular issues.
Mark Warner's a Democrat. Democrats are clearly upset by this because they think Russia used their will to sort of hurt their candidate. Are we hearing Republicans just as upset by this?
It was Warner who spoke most vociferously after yesterday's hearing, but we sure have heard Republicans. And, it depends on the Republican. President Trump has accused Twitter of having or Facebook of having it in for him.
Right.
And that's a statement that, Twitter denied. But I think Republicans have been equally upset at the undermining of the democratic process, and know if whether privately or publicly they'll say that just because the election worked out one way doesn't mean it can't work out another way the next time. And you have researchers finding that 10 to 15% of the accounts on Twitter are fake or are on some level automated bots, and the hope is that Twitter will take that seriously and try to shut them down.
We should also make note that Twitter has gotten in trouble in the past for having fake accounts or not knowing how many real people are on there, and Twitter's still never made a dime.
No, but that's just it. They don't require the same amount of information from their users that, say, Facebook does, so they may not have as good a handle on this, and that's what the senators are imploring them to try and get, because they said that there's a real threat to democratic institutions. Now, of course, Twitter is under no obligation to do this. They're a private company. There's no law that says they need to do this, but the senators, I think, are going to try and ratchet up the pressure, calling back Twitter for additional closed-door hearings and eventually try to get them to testify publicly.
It's a great point. They're a media company and have absolutely zero regulation, but the rest of us all live under a highly regulated system. But Twitter and Facebook, though being media companies, don't have any regulation.
I'm McGraw and I approve this message.
Right. Right.
And that's not something that's required on